if you have someone or a group of people that are in your marketing strategy who are influencers and they don't help you to get to the bottom line, how are we measuring the effectiveness of their influence?
The Miles Pod.
Whitney Gaspard, strategist, marketer, and founder of Gaspard Consulting Group. How the heck are you this morning?
Excellent, Miles. So happy to be here, and I'm so excited.
Awesome. So let's get right into it. The question of the day that pushes this show. What is your dream?
My dream. Such a big and loaded question. But I would say that my dream is to change the world. My dream is to change the world. What does that look like? What does that feel like? In what realm? How? All those questions, I'm still uncovering and discovering what is my unique contribution that's going to change the world. Don't know yet. Still discovering that. But the dream is to shift and to change the world.
Well, it seems like you are well on your way and you made an incredible splash in New York. Can you kind of talk to me about what you were doing out there?
In New York, I moved to New York right after undergrad, which was a great time to do it. I went for a graduate degree at NYU. And while at school studying social and cultural analysis, I also got jumped into the job market there because you have to work if you live in New York. And I was working 2, 3 jobs at a time at one point. And so I jumped into the world of marketing, not because I thought I was a marketer or aspired to be a marketer or went to school for marketing, but because I wanted to tell stories. I always had this dream of being a storyteller, being the next Maya Angelou and stuff like that. And in my first publishing job, I was like, nah, like writing all the time at this pace, at this rate, like, nah, that's not me. And so I had this what was happening at the time was magazines were shifting to digital platforms, to websites. And that's when I got into the publishing world, is when magazines were trying to figure out what does this magazine look like on a .com. So I came right at the precipice of that, which was amazing because I got to see what that was like for teams building it from the ground up, and really just trying to figure out where do I fit into all of this. Everyone was trying to figure everything out. No one knew what like a homepage should look like. What should the stories be about? What should the photos feel like? How do we make it a part of the magazine or an extension, et cetera, et cetera? How do advertisers fit into all of this? People were still trying to figure it out, and I was lucky enough to be right there. And I stuck with that for many, many years, working at Time Inc., working with the Essence team, and doing some stints at Good Morning America, and telling stories and helping in the booking department there, and working at other ad agencies like OMG. And it just snowballed into this entire experience of storytelling, marketing, websites that all now sort of kind of intertwine. So my entire New York experience is outlined by my publishing experience and background, jumping into marketing, learning the advertising world and how do brands show up and represent themselves in different atmospheres. That was it. And then, the pandemic hit. Then I had to, shake myself. I had to make another move. But that was New York.
Wow. Okay, so walk me through your day to day at Essence. So you wake up, go to work. What does your day look like?
Oh
Do
my
you
God.
do you stop for a New York hot dog on the way for lunch? Like
Um,
what do you take the subway? Do you walk and push like 10 people off of you as you're going to work? How does it look? Because New York I'll be honest with you, New York scares me. Like it's so intimidating.
Miles, you would do excellent in New York. Like what? New York is a epicenter of a whole bunch of dreamers who not only want to dream it, but want to do it and do it by any means necessary. But that doesn't always mean something negative by any means necessary. It just means what I'm describing is putting as much into its sweat equity as possible into what you need to do in order to make it thrive, to flourish, etc.
So when you were working at Essence, what did your day-to-day look like out there, like, doing that job? Because when you say I'll be honest, like,
Mhm.
when you say, "Oh, I was publishing, I was doing this, I was doing that," it sounds like rocket science to me, like, I have no clue what you're actually doing.
So at Essence, I was fortunate to have a whole bunch of jobs. I was at Essence for 7 years, and I worked part time, I worked freelance, I worked full time, I worked in this department, that department, helping with different people. So I was like, I just say that my entire experience was like a huge internship, graduate studies, MBA, in just how to operate the business of publishing, and also a PhD in how to connect with, relate to, speak to Black people.
Mm.
We'll talk about that later. What was my day like? From year to year, it changed, but by and large, it was wake up like everybody else did, on days that I was asked to come into the office for a different project or whatnot. I would wake up, jump on the train. Essence was in Midtown Manhattan at one point, off 50th Street. So I would get off at 50th. I lived in Harlem. So that wasn't far. It's just, a few stops. I think it's like 5 stops. When Essence moved to Brooklyn, now that was a bit of a trek, because I would have to take a train that was probably like my entire commute from door to door was like an hour, and
Oof.
that was when I was throwing them bows on the train, like, excuse me, can I sit down? I'm not trying
That's rough.
stand on the train for like 40 minutes and then switch trains. Da, da, da. So yeah, those were times where I was like, excuse me. But I would go to the office, and it would be, for me, it was finding as many people as possible to help me solve solutions for what I needed to get done. No matter what department I was in or who I was helping or supporting, I learned very quickly within the just business atmosphere. I think that this is transferable no matter where you work, is you have to find the people who can help you imagine and the people who can help you put together the dream. And so when I was at Essence, I made it a mission for me to understand who were the people that were going to help me to imagine, who were the people that were going to help me to build, who were the people that were going to help me to measure, and always making sure that I had those people around me, surrounding me, inputting, contributing to the conversation in the brainstorms, etc. That stuff is so important.
I like how you broke that down, like how you categorize it, because I think one of the biggest misconceptions right now with
Mhm.
a lot of entrepreneurs and leaders is they feel like they have to do everything themselves.
I hate doing everything myself. It's like it is a prayer. Like when you come up with a prayer list, I'm like, Father God, please don't make me be the only one. When I'm talking to my team, like even now, I'm like, I don't know all the answers. I don't know. And when I come to you all, I'm speaking from a place of um I'm talking and I'm saying what I think, what I'd like to do, what I've observed, sort of what I've manifested. but that doesn't mean I literally know what is the next step. Doesn't mean I literally know what is the sequence of events that has to happen in order to get this done. And I don't ever want that responsibility. It's an extreme responsibility to shoulder, taking on every aspect of something to get it done. I wouldn't wish that on anyone. It's not efficient, it's not functional, and it's extremely stressful. I love collaboration.
That's refreshing. Like I would want to work for you. Like totally. Like you'd be like my favorite boss. I'd be like, I love going to work.
Oh my
My
god,
boss is awesome.
don't speak too soon, but okay. Because what happens in that scenario is you invite all these amazing people to the table to come up with excellent ideas to imagine, to execute, and then what makes it tough is the accountability part.
Mm,
Did you do what you said you was going to do? Did you look this up? Did you look it up, or did you research it, or did you put it together with a spirit or a mind of excellence? Did you put it together with a spirit or mind of thoughtfulness? Or did you just put it together because I said I needed it in 2 days, and you're like, okay, she needs it in 2 days. Let me just slap it together. I think then that becomes, that could be a challenge.
yeah, absolutely. So you develop all these skills at
Mhm.
Essence, and then did you advance to the Omnicom Media Group where you're working with Warner Brothers, or was that first?
I Essence throughout my career, Essence wasn't only my only or primary job. People in New York, we have this amazing ability to balance multiple projects and clients or work and all this other kind of stuff. So a similar thing happened to me while I was working with Essence, freelance at times, etc. I would need to have other opportunities in order to just make a complete income, if you will, and
Okay.
also to just round out my experience. So while I was working at Essence, I also worked at Omnicom. And at Omnicom, it was a really great experience. Well, not as great. Let me not gas it. It was a good experience from a big agency perspective, to work with a lot of, to work in big teams and to
Mm,
understand how brands imagine themselves in the market and what they could do. And Warner Brothers had a lot of amazing films coming out at that time. They had not Q-Tip, Ice Cube. I'm sorry. They had an Ice Cube film that was coming out, which I believe at that time it was like Barbershop 2. My memory is like a little fuzzy now.
that sounds about right. Yeah,
They
barbershop
also
too.
had
Yeah.
like the the spin-offs of the not Game of Thrones. My mind is going, but like the Hobbit series.
Oh yeah, The Hobbit. Yep.
Series, Batman. There were a lot. Kevin Hart was on a run at that time, so there was Kevin Hart films that were a part of this. Will Smith's film with Margot Robbie. So it was like there was so many different, aspects, and I mean so many different genres and types of films, and really I got a really good view into how do these brands market or see themselves marketing to people with these different kinds of stories. Where do they think the audience is? What do they think the audience wants to see? How do they think the audience will respond? Because for a single film, when we talk about, I don't want to get like too scientific into like marketing strategy, but
Hmm.
for a single film there are well over 100 different video assets or video spots that are created in order to connect with a particular audience segment to get them to go to the theater. That's very scientific. It's
That's
like,
wild.
I want Black women 18 to 25 to go see an action film. And then there is probably a firm or a team that puts together an entire strategy or profile of like, who are these kinds of people? And then, or not who are these kinds of people, but what would these women be interested in seeing, knowing about the film, and what are the different variations of the commercial spots that we can create to entice this audience and get them to the theater. It's very, very, for me it was exciting because I was watching all of the spots. I was seeing the various, like the small tweaks, the color to sound, like it's literally a science, a creative science of how to develop advertising creative that speaks to people, which is a part of what I do now.
Wow. So did you run into any of these celebrities from the magazine or from the movies that you were helping to market?
No, from the movies, we OMG was a New York is a New York based, or at that time was a New York based agency, and all of the movie houses are in LA. So, and I was not high enough on the totem pole at that time to be jumping flights and going to see Kevin Hart. You know what I'm saying? So
Right, right.
I was in the cubicle. But in essence, it was a smaller team. In essence, its headquarters were in New York, and so yeah, people were up and through the office all the time. I'd be like, "Hey," I was like that shy little, "Can I get a picture?" Like, not people.
You
See people.
totally became a fangirl?
Oh my god!
Nice.
When I was younger, I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Now you couldn't get me to care. I don't even know who would have to roll up in here for me to be like, "Oh my god!" Maybe like Barack Obama. I've never met Barack Obama, so maybe like Barack Obama, I'd be like, Former President. I don't even know what to call it. Former President Barack Obama. Can we get a selfie?
I've actually met Barack, but I was more like starstruck over Michelle because Michelle has like this queen essence to her. I don't know
Yeah,
how to describe it. And then she's
absolutely.
so like sweet and tender, like you feel like you're meeting like the queen of the country.
Absolutely. She
Yeah.
definitely has that. I remember seeing her, um, and it gave that energy as well. I was like, wow, what a queen. Hello, MO. Yeah.
So what was your most embarrassing moment where you were like, I gotta get a photo of this celebrity, or you just kind of like froze?
Those stories do not exist.
So you just fought through it. You didn't allow yourself to become
If I
starstruck.
was too embarrassed, I would sit my ass down. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
I'm not gonna embarrass myself, because you know, I always kind of had this idea as well that everybody is just a person.
right,
Like, how OD am I gonna get to see or to take a photo with this? Like, there are people whose entire personalities on and how they leverage, you know, themselves is through taking photos with people,
right.
many of whom wouldn't remember who they were. Let me not let my spirit is telling me, pull that back, Wit, pull it back. Okay, let me not go too hard. Let me not go too hard, Miles. This is conversation number one. But there are many people who have developed an online persona that is built around taking photos and videos with people of notoriety. And and that can be, and I recognize that even in 2013 and 14 and
Hmm.
15, and I was like, I'm not that girl. Like, even now on my socials, I hardly publish anything. I want people to know me for what I bring to the table, for my thoughts, for my contributions to the creative process. I don't want you to try to get in touch with me at all because of who you think I know. Do not call me if you want to know who I know or because you think that I'm adjacent to this person. Put the phone down, close the email. I'm not that girl.
I mean, you must be mortified at the state of the world right now because isn't that what the influencer industry is all about?
It is. And what shall I say? I had this in my own personal notes of like, what do I want to say regarding influence? Um,
Because now it's changed, right? It's like before you're a celebrity for, based upon your talent, what you do, you've been in a show, you've been in a movie, you're doing something. Now it's just anybody could be a celebrity as long as you're posting all the time and you're getting views and people are doing darker things like garnering their own paid for followings, the OF team,
mhm.
and then advertisers are responding to that, right? So you talked about how these movie companies have 100 different versions of clips and movies. Well, now people are doing that with their YouTube thumbnails, right? The most infamous example is Mr. Beast going through hundreds of different of thumbnails to figure out which one is gravitating towards his audience. So I can see that being a process that now everyone is trying to do to
Yeah.
become a celebrity and influencer.
I think that celebrity and influence are two different things. And I think when I think about the state of the environment of influence, I think what all marketers or brands, agencies, etc., are trying to do is figure out where does the true influence lie. And I don't necessarily have the answer to that, but I have thoughts on it. And I think that the influence, that there are many people and groups of people who we assign the title influencer, but in what way are they influencing is very unknown to me. And many of the brands that I work with are direct to consumer brands. The bottom line of all of those brands, no matter if it's a hair company or hair care or body personal care or etc., the bottom line for all of these companies is to sell products. That's it. You have to push product. So if you have someone or a group of people that are in your marketing strategy who are influencers and they don't help you to get to the bottom line, how are we measuring the effectiveness of their influence?
Mm.
And so I really think that there is a shift happening right now post pandemic. So much has changed and everyone is learning a new way of connecting with, speaking to exciting, everyday people like you and me, and how they can get us to buy what what they're creating. So we're all relearning something. But a couple of things that I know for sure is, I know for sure every influencer doesn't have true influence. I know for sure that assigning or sending out hundreds or thousands of products through gifting campaigns or PR strategies in order to generate consumer excitement online is not a fail proof, 100% effective, you know, execution for marketing. Just because you send Whitney or Miles a box of shampoo and we post something online about it doesn't mean that that's going to help to generate any sort of shopping, any buys for your brand. um, I know for sure that influence has to equal monetization in some way or fashion, no matter how you add up the math, where you place the influencer. Is it, in the awareness funnel? Is it in the consideration, etc.? It has to get to a dollar. There has to be an equation that tells me that this strategy of tapping into this group of people helped us to yield this many dollars. And I know for sure that many brands and agencies are not doing that math to see if that is truly an effective strategy.
Right. They just want to pay, the Kardashians $500,000 to hold their product. But I feel like now you're right. I feel like now people get that they're being sold to. People know that the product was just sent over to that celebrity or influencer, and you're just trying to sell people. Like, so I guess it's being watered down, and it's the effectiveness, it's losing its effectiveness.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I think that also it's the word that's coming to my mind is it's corroding the experience of what the brands really want, in terms of how they want consumers to experience their product. you know there are people that create page there's a whole economy right now of people who are getting products from brands, and their entire social page is just posting videos from free things that they got from brands. Who are they influencing there?
Right.
Who are they driving to shop? There's no brand loyalty there. They're using any and every kind of different products in every kind of category and industry. It's just for me personally, when I look at it, when I see pages like that, it to me as a millennial, it reads to me like an infomercial. Like, what's
Correct.
happening here? Where's the quality? Where's the thoughtfulness? Where's the true interest in the product? Um, it's just not there. And also, going back to the things I know for sure about influence, I know for sure about influence that celebrity does not equal sales.
Mm.
That is such a 90s marketing idea, which had amazing 90s and 2000s, which had amazing brand partnerships, MJ, signing on with Nike, and that sales went up. There are some really great case studies in the arena of marketing in which a celebrity was paired with a brand, and it skyrocketed the sales and bottom line of a brand. There are less instances of that today because there are so many things going on with us daily. Like you were saying, we are constantly being advertised, marketed to, in covert ways, in direct ways, everywhere, within on our digital devices and within our social. How do we then decipher for ourselves what are the products that we're really interested in, and what do we want to buy? And not only that, but like, if we're going deeper, because remember I said I got a graduate degree in social and cultural analysis, so
Yeah.
I'm always thinking like group think, right? Do I really want this, or is this something that has become popular and trendy and now I want it? And I think that's important to understand what part of your audience is here for a trend versus what part of your audience is here because they really like your product, because the people that really like it, that's where your lifetime value customer is going to be. People who are here for trend, they will fall off. If that makes up 80% of your total revenue annually, and this is who you're spending a bulk of your marketing dollars talking to, these people who are here for trends, that's not going to yield you long-term success. That's like you know a quick shot and you're out. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's going to be there, is your product is going to be hot, and for a year, 2 years, and then it's going to fall off, and then what? you know
Right.
so yeah.
Well, the problem is the people, the big companies that have assigned this project to this whoever the social media managers slash marketers are, like they should actually work with your company, because here's what they focus on, which is a mistake. They focus on the impressions, how many times it got viewed, the clicks, the likes, the hearts,
Mhm.
And that's the data that they bring back to their managers and say, hey, look, yeah, we sent our product to this influencer. It has 1 million views. But as you said, they're not tracking if that actually converted to sales.
Does it convert to a sale? Um, yes, you got the awareness. Yes, you got the impression, but also what's the audience sentiment? One thing that social media has done for us is we've really gotten a chance to see what people really think about something because people are in the comments, you know. That's one of the reasons why I think the Shade Room as a media platform that has really figured out and they've really figured out how to leverage social platforms to build community is that people went into the comments more than they were in the comments at TMZ, more than they're in the comments for CNN and ABC News, and people that have these huge multi-million, if not billion-dollar global structures and teams. Here's the Shade Room, and they're getting more engagement and real thoughts from people. And why that's important is when you partner with the celeb, you have them push a product or do some brand partnership, you're getting all these views, they have double taps. And when you read the comments, it's like, girl, you look cute, but we know you don't wear that. Girl,
Mm.
your makeup is amazing. Love that lipstick. But LOL at this partnership. Like people are like we always used to say, oh, the consumer is smart, oh, they know, they're very knowledgeable. Like, nah, like for real, they know when something is being peddled to them in an effort to sell or push a product out of desperation or whatever the thing is. They know, they study these people, they are connected to their person of influence every single day. They don't miss a post from this person, they have notifications on for this person, they know what kind of coffee this person likes, they know what kind of leash their dog wears, so they're gonna know if they use your shampoo or not.
Right.
And if you come out of nowhere and it's like, I love this, this ring. I've been wearing this ring, da da da. And they're like, girl, we've never seen you wear that ring before. We've never heard you talk. And like, it's like, whoa.
Yeah, that's the downside of having followers. They follow you. Like they know everything that you post, what you wore, how you do yourself up every day. They know.
They know. Very, very smart people, very smart people.
Well, the second problem too is the founders, or let's say the early exit founders who maybe they sold their company, now they're onto a new company, serial entrepreneurs.
Hmm.
Look at examples like Jessica Alba and her company, The Honest Company,
Hmm.
and they go, well, that company doesn't work without her. So then they look at that as the formula, like, oh, we have to partner ourselves with an amazing celebrity because that's the only way we get the awareness.
Yeah.
So so is that a remnant of the 90s and 2000s that you talked about, or is that really still a trend that exists for for major successful, because the Honest Company is it's got to be hundreds of millions of dollars, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I would say that what you're describing is something new that was developed during this takeoff of the social space and social platforms, and that is the celebrity CEO. In the
Right.
in the 90s and 2000s, people, there was a great disconnect between who the CEOs were and the consumers. People didn't know who the CEOs were. We didn't care. We knew about them only when something political was happening or something like it had to be. It wasn't easily accessible, and it wasn't top of mind for us to understand and know who were the CEOs. We didn't care. It wasn't a part of what led us to the brand. If we liked orange soda, we liked orange soda. We didn't care who the CEO of orange soda was. Now, with the advent of social media, a part of some brands and their marketing story is the founder story, which is extremely important. A lot of founders who create their own product or brand or etc. That's a really important part of communicating or connecting to their audience by telling people who they are. um, there are a lot of positives to that. You build a community, which a lot of brands now, you may know them, you may walk, through the stores. You talked about on one of your podcast episodes, you talked about going into Macy's and like the whole experience of Macy's and the season
Yeah.
experience. Um, there's no Macy's community. You know what I'm saying? We had
Right.
a great time, and it took you to that podcast to then say, "Oh, we had a great time there." But if people go to a brick and mortar pop up of a brand like Topicals, which is a new up and coming skincare brand that has gotten a lot of support from Black women who's now available. That's now available at retailers, like different retailers across the country. There is a community of Black, brown, women and etc. who really enjoy that product. And if they go to a Topicals experience, they're going to come back and say, I went to this thing. This is who I met at this thing. I just love the atmosphere of this thing. I use this product. And so I want to communicate to everyone else that I'm a part of this community of people. Another brand that does that really well is Telfar. They do a
Mm.
really good job. And I'm just naming like fashion and beauty brands because like this is like the arena that I'm always watching. But Telfar does a really great job of that, of creating community, and understanding and connecting with who is your founder. People like that when they see a founder and they see the CEO of that company and they can relate to that person. They like that person's style. They like that person's point of view. They like the way the person dresses. So very basic human things, things that you would use to find friends or build community that you learn in elementary school. People still use those basic human instincts to decide, hey, do I want to support this brand or etc. Because I really like their CEO. I like what they said about this. I like that they took a position on something like a global issue that's happening and affecting many. I like that. The downside of that is it becomes extremely strenuous on that part.
Right. Hence why Disney has so many issues right now.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
also just thinking through what you were saying about the honest company. That is not a totally 100%. Nothing is 100%, but it's extremely strenuous on that person who is running a company. The role of the CEO is really to think through, what does the future hold for this brand? Everybody could be working on what's happening in 2024. I have to be thinking about, what is this going to look, feel, and sound like in 2026, in 2027. And when your social media manager is coming up to you like, can you do this post? You get like a little bit like, girl, I'm trying to think of this. So it could be it can be very strenuous. And another negative to that is what happens when the CEO starts to generate negative attention, negative press, says some stuff that people don't like, and then people were so attached to you as the CEO that now that they don't like your position on something, which is another affect of social media, now that they don't like your position on something, they don't want to buy or be a part of the brand anymore. Or like we're seeing now, there are people who are outright protesting brands, trying to get people to stop purchasing from brands, which ultimately then affects the bottom line. So I think that there are amazing examples of that sort of thing, the star CEO working really well. And then I think that, that there are some downsides to it, which are some of the things that I just named.
Right. So let's go back just a bit. I mean, I can obviously see why you started your own company, but I just want to hear how it happened. Because how does any smart, sophisticated person that's running a company let you go to go start your own?
I think that I my departure was at a time where there were a lot of shifts that happened in 2020. So there were a lot of shifts happening with a lot of people. And I said to myself, do I want to work in this kind of environment again? And by environment, I mean just like an employee. Like, is that what I really want to do? I've been on the grind and hustle, working multiple jobs. Um, I've been throwing myself, into this work. Um, and I've done that. And, like I've been working since I was 16 years old, and I'm like, I've done this. What if I did something different? And I tried to go back to work as an employee at another company for an agency. And while I was there, it was that thing that was just in my mind, like, you're working on someone else's dream.
Mm.
When are you going to work on yours? When are you going to do what you have envisioned in your mind, what you have placed on your heart? When are you going to do that? And so I remember making the call when I put my notice in. And, what I said was just like, I want to change the world. I'm not saying I can't do it from here, but I'm saying that I have to try to do it on my own. I don't know. Like, I'm not like an MBA student. I didn't go to like amazing business school. I don't even have a business background. Like, I have an Africana studies, background. I went to undergrad for that. I went to NYU and I was in the Africana studies department and studied social and cultural analysis. I think I think like a sociologist. I think about what is the group, what's happening in this community, what's happening to the collective. Um, and and so I was like, this this isn't working for me anymore.
Forgive me for asking you this, but
Mhm.
during that grind in New York, did you have a life?
Oh yeah,
Like, that was outside of work? Because it just seems like you slept at
absolutely.
the office and you were there 18 hours a day.
Oh my gosh, does it sound like that? Well, go back and like edit what I was saying.
Well,
I
that's what you imagine because you said you're traveling an hour or something like that into Brooklyn, and you threw yourself all into these jobs. You're working multiple jobs, and it sounds really comprehensive, all the things that you were doing.
Yeah, I mean it was, but that was the atmosphere. It is the atmosphere. That's why I'm like, New York is filled with people who have a dream, who not only want to dream the dream, but want to do the dream and will get to the dream by any means necessary. You grind, but I was in my 20s. I had tons of energy. I was in the streets. I mean, but we don't need to talk about me being in the streets. But I was definitely out and had a great time. I had, friends and family who lived in New York and had really amazing experiences, and friends that I hold near and dear to me today are people that I met while living in New York. Didn't have a lot of resources, didn't have a lot of money, didn't was trying to figure out how to create a network of my own. And a lot of that happened off the clock, so absolutely had a life, absolutely was twirling, loved my experience living in Harlem. And I was also very, tried to be as involved as I could in the community. I was a part of my church, Abyssinian Baptist, and I was a part of like 2 or 3 different ministries in my time there and made some amazing friends while I was there too. So I was an extremely high functioning type A personality and still am today.
So, yeah, tell me how Harlem was. Like, what was that like living there? Because all I think about is like Nas and like dodging
Yeah, tell me
bullets.
what you think and I'll.
That's what I think. I think like music, hip hop, but I also think like it's dangerous. Like you can't look anybody in the eye when but I also think of like really good food and like steam rising up through corrugated steel, like gates in the floor, like Ninja Turtles. That's what I think. That's what I think of. I think you're gonna run into the Ninja Turtles, in the sewer or something,
No.
like, and then you have like these guys in their little French hats that are painting like in random stores. Like that's what I think. Harlem Renaissance.
Okay. These are all interesting thoughts that were crafted by for you. Groupthink again. Harlem was an amazing and extraordinary time. When I moved to New York, my family who lived in New York, they came from Haiti, they went to Brooklyn. As with many Haitian, families and Caribbean families, they landed in Brooklyn. And so what I told myself is I don't want to move to Brooklyn because Brooklyn will become like a crutch for me. I already had a family church in Brooklyn off Utica Ave. My cousins were living there, my aunts were living there, and I'm like, I'm going to go to New York and I'm going to live in a bubble of my family. I'm going to do
Hmm.
what my family wants to do because I love my family. I love hanging out with my family. And I would say like my best friends and etc. are like my family members. And so I was like, I want to challenge myself. This experience, I'm not coming to New York to be the same as I was before. I'm coming to experience something different. So I moved to Harlem. I didn't know a soul there. I literally did not know anyone. I did not know a single person. And I was pulling up to Lenox Avenue and I was like, what is this? Got to my very first apartment in New York. My room looked out to the hallway where the elevator
Wait,
was.
what?
I was like,
Like,
I was in the most basic, smallest room ever.
so it's like 200 square feet.
Sure, I'm not good at math, but like it could fit a twin bed and a desk. Okay, that was it. My mom
Wow.
was like, my mom walked in and she was like, Whitney, is this where you're gonna live? And I was like, Mommy, it's a part of the experience. Already catching L's, the first night. I'm like, it's the experience. And
That's literally a scene in Zootopia.
oh really?
Literally.
Send me the clip.
She
Where
comes yeah, she comes to a big city, and she's getting into this tiny room, and there's literally, like, a desk and a bed.
that was
Yeah.
me. That
Yeah.
was me. It was a desk and a bed, and there was no room for anywhere. I needed to put a lamp in the room because there wasn't like an overhead.
Yeah.
I needed to put a lamp in the room, and there was barely space for a little side table with a lamp. Um,
So Harlem's expensive then.
well, at that time, I mean, but this is years ago now. I don't need to date myself or tell my age on your platform, but this wasn't long ago, but it was years ago. And at that time, I was sharing an apartment with 3 or 4 other girls. There was like, 4 bedrooms. And so we each had our own room. And I just had the smallest one because I was like the last one to enter. I had never even seen the apartment before I got off the plane.
Oh,
I
wow.
was really like, I need somewhere to live, da 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 da. Pulled up. But yeah, at that time I paid like I think I paid like less than $650. It wasn't a lot. And so it was reflective of like what I was doing. It was cheaper than a dorm and it was the size of a dorm room. So and I was going there to go to school. I had no thought that I was gonna like work at Essence and like try to get on the scene. Like that wasn't me. I was just like, okay, I'm in New York. I'm gonna go to NYU. I'm gonna, explore the city and do what I have to do. But going back to the Harlem question, Harlem is an amazing community. It is a community. That's one thing I did learn when I was like, this is not a neighborhood. I mean, this is not like a city. This is a neighborhood. Y'all, not Harlem, USA. Harlem, USA is a neighborhood. Like,
Mm.
what? It's not even like on the map. If you pull it up and you open a map, it doesn't say Harlem. It says NYC. Like,
Wow.
what? So that was one of the things I learned, is that this neighborhood and this community of people had an extraordinary history, and their history and legacy to the American experience was so big and vast that they could make a proclamation of themselves, titling themselves Harlem USA and all this stuff, because they had what it took to back it up, take what to back it up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you're talking about the Harlem Renaissance, like walking through the neighborhoods and the streets and seeing streets named after, going to the park, Marcus Garvey Park, going up here, Lenox, on Malcolm X, going on 125th, MLK, there it was Langston Hughes. Like, there were, all the streets were named after, or are named after, people of great significance that contributed to American history and Black history in such big ways. And all of them have a very specific and unique experience coming out of Harlem. So I learned very quickly that I was on, if you will, not to be too salacious, but I was in respects on holy ground, if you will, for, in terms of
Right.
what it meant to be a part of, a community of people that come from such rich history, and walking around Harlem, it was my first time experiencing people that would be walking on the street. Hey sis, how you doing? Good morning. How you? Oh, you look good. Like, when I would walk to church, when me and my roommate would walk to church, or when I would go to walk to church on my own, people would be like, good morning. Like, how you doing? You look good. Enjoy your service, sis. Da, da, da. It was so communal. It is so communal. It is so communal.
So even so it wasn't like catcalling. It was just like a very gentle, polite, like
It was
just
like,
like
right. It was very
yeah.
polite, like, all right, and I'd be like, okay, the first time, the first couple of times, you're like, oh, I don't know, I'm not saying anything, I'm from Chicago, like,
Yeah, we don't do that in
oh,
Chicago.
we don't do that, but like in Harlem, like, what? Speak, thank you. All right, you too. And it's so important for your neighbors and people on your block and things like that, like, to know you, to walk into a church, and people, from when you're walking up the street, to the church, people recognize you. Oh, hey sis. Even though, if they don't remember your name, oh, hey sis, I haven't seen you in a couple of Sundays. How are you? Going into, the coffee shop or the restaurant, like, people know you, even when you're going, out at night, you know, for a little twirl. People
Mhm.
know you, and it's important that you make yourself be known, and create community. And there are so many amazing people that I met whose families are from Harlem. Who talk about what it used to be like, and during difficult times of the crack era, and etc., and what it was like growing up then. But they are extremely proud of what Harlem is like today, and I took on that pride as well. And so while I was living in Harlem, gentrification was happening like magically. Like the Disney thing where it's like Mickey like turns his thing, and it's like,
Oh yeah.
okay, that's what was happening in Harlem. Gentrification. I was like, what thing?
You're like, "Where's everybody at?"
Where's everybody at? Is that a Whole Foods? What's happening? I was telling the boys and girls, don't shop at Whole Foods. If you shop at Whole Foods, then they're gonna stay here, and this is the beginning of da 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 da. But you know, I just really took on, what it meant to preserve what was there. And so many areas in Harlem are really historic and important to the community. And so when big businesses come in and change a street like 125th Street by introducing large, big business commercial properties, um, that that impacts the community in ways that are unknown to people who are selling and pushing product. And in my time there are big businesses that came and they went. They couldn't sustain,
Mm.
because this is a community. You can't just put this, I don't know. You can't just put this clothing store here and think because you offer plus sizes that people are going to come up in here and shop. No, what's your contribution? How are you opening the doors in ways that invite the community in? What are you doing that is a part of this community, whether through the parades or through the Saturday parties and functions that happen at the nearby park, at Nicholas Park, at Marcus Garvey, like at Morningside Park? What are you doing that is contributing to this community that people are working hard to preserve as their own? So living in Harlem taught me a very big lesson on what does it mean to have community. It taught me a very intimate lesson on what does legacy mean. And I, like I said, I went to Abyssinian Baptist Church. I was a member and all that stuff, very involved there. And I really, really understood what does it mean, or what it meant to be a part of a community, a faith community that was in New York, in Manhattan, in Harlem, and what and how important it was to give back to people through time, through love, through care, through patience, community, etc. Like, I couldn't have chosen a better place. I say I chose it, but we all know that, God moves. So God chose it for
Right.
me. I landed my 2 feet there, and I'm so happy that I did. And I would go back anytime. I just need like 2 mil, and then I could like buy some.
Well, that's my question, because you sold me on Harlem, so now I'm wondering, like, why are you in Chicago? If you have such a, like, a strong community, and
Mhm,
it's just kind of where you grew, and the opportunities are there, and the dreamers are there. They not only dream, but they do.
mhm.
Why come to Chicago?
The pandemic hit, and it was such a unsure time. I was like, what is going on? I literally had no idea about corona until like a week before Trump announced the shutdown. I was so like in another world. I was just going through
Mm.
some things, and I heard about the cruise ship and people being sick on the cruise ship, and I was like listening to it, but I wasn't like really grasping like what was happening. And then they was like, "Oh, we got to shut it down." And I was like, "Shut it down? What do you mean?" So for me, it like took me aback extremely because I had not really been paying attention. So it was like, "We're shutting everything down on Friday and it's dag on Monday." And I'm like, "Shutting what down? Where? Where da da da?" So I decided that I was gonna quarantine in Chicago with my family. And I held on to my wonderful Harlem abode off Lenox for as long as I could. Because one thing about it, when you find a good place in New York, you hold it. You hold it for dear life. And I held it for dear life. And during the pandemic, and I was just like, I really have to make a decision. And it was a tough decision. Um, it was a very tough decision to leave. But ultimately, when I left, I started GCG. So kind of worked out.
Absolutely. I mean, wow. And that you're in your office right now. I see some advertisement behind you, so I'm guessing those are clients that you've worked with.
Yeah.
For the person that's starting a micro brand or just getting started, I imagine that they're highly interested in you and what you do.
Mhm.
How do you recommend they get started in 5 easy steps?
How do they get started in a business?
Yeah, how do they get their wings and start flying? Because I think that's the hardest part because there's so many different options. I think that's why everybody starts, okay, I have a, let's say I have a hair care product. I'm
Mhm,
just going to go ahead and send it to celebrities. And you're saying that that's outdated, that's not the most effective. So
mhm.
how would you advise somebody to kind of get started with launching their brand?
Well, I'm by no means a business guru by any means. I'm learning in real time, and I too need support and help and resources. But I will say, so I don't know if I can give 5 steps, but I
You
can.
could do more than that or less. It's up to you.
Okay, great. I'm gonna do one. I'm gonna do one step. One most important step that any entrepreneur needs to start their business is confidence.
Mm,
I'm not a business guru. I did not get my MBA. I did not go or study business things. I did this as a practice. And I built a muscle that grew. And with my God given talents and abilities, and all the things that God put in me, here I am today. But I, with all these things considered, I didn't have the confidence to do it. I remember um, 2 years before I started GCG, I was working in on the marketing team at Essence, and a couple of the girls were like, "Let's get tacos after." I can't even remember the real occasion of like why we went out after. We just needed to like connect, and so we were all chatting and da 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 at a taco spot in Brooklyn, having a good time, and we started sharing some of our stories about just where we were professionally and some of the ups and downs. And one of the girls at the table said to me, who is an amazing woman, amazing marketer, who has now gotten her MBA from Stern at NYU, who has worked for amazing brands, also a Caribbean woman, was like, "Wait, you should just start your own thing." She's like, "You're
mm.
so smart. You're so this." And she was just like pouring into me, like telling me all these things that I can't really remember everything she said, but I remember how it made me feel at the time. And I don't know if it was the margaritas or it was just like, you know, but I felt, I said to myself, the way I felt when she told me that was like, I felt scared.
Mm.
I was fearful. I was afraid. And yet in my spirit, it said, my spirit also, that was me, like Whitney Gaspard feeling. How did I feel? But my spirit said, that's a nugget.
Mhm.
And my spirit was like, when you take something out and you're like, oh, keeping that, that's a note. You'll need that for later. Had no idea. It made an impact on me because it made me realize how afraid I was to do something for myself. And I think that I would characterize myself, when I think about my time working on, various teams, I think of myself as being tenacious. I think of myself as, breaking the rules and trying to figure out how to get things done. I think of myself as being someone who was very collaborative, who wasn't afraid to walk up to someone's desk or knock on somebody's door and ask them for help or to contribute. And I think of myself as, but also very quiet. Like
Yeah.
I wasn't, and I'm still not, I'm working on it, I guess you could say. I'm still not a person that really boasts about my successes and wins. And what I learned in those atmospheres as an employee, in different businesses, not, this is not specific to Essence. I'm just saying, like, in
Yeah.
businesses, what I learned is that when you don't verbalize and celebrate your own wins, that communicates something to people. And my perception was that it communicated that I'm a team player. I'm
Right.
down. I'm in the game. I'm in it for the team. But what I realize now that is that that could also communicate that I was a bit of a pushover.
Right.
And that it's okay to um request or demand certain things of Whitney because she's just going to do it anyways. And that impacted, when we think about bottom lines, the bottom line of that impacted my overall confidence. And so when I was sitting at the table having margaritas and tacos with the girls, they were like, you should just start your own thing. It shocked me that I was so afraid of doing something on my own. It was shocking to me. I was like, are you who you think you are?
That's that famous Drake line right there.
Drake?
Yeah, that's that famous Drake line where he says, uh, like, you made it when you are who you think you are.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Yeah, something like that.
I'm not, I don't,
I bet those tacos were trash.
why?
New York tacos just sound bad to me. Like they sound like it was trash. That's why you were thinking about your future because you're like, I got to think about something positive because these tacos are trash.
I can say I do not remember the tacos, so the tacos were not memorable. So you may have a point.
Yeah, a
The
hundred
best
percent.
food in New York is like Caribbean dishes. Period. I'm back here in Chicago. I can't find a good jerk chicken, peas and rice to save my life. Where
In
is the
Hyde
good
Park,
Caribbean
you
food?
haven't been to Hyde Park,
Don't. This is being recorded for quality.
Howard Street. You haven't been around Howard Street.
This is being recorded for quality assurance. I don't want to use this platform to tear down businesses.
Oh, that's funny.
Okay. I cannot find. Oh, I'm lying. I actually like Good to Go, but Good to Go was popping before it even was like a real,
Wait, where's Good to Go?
Good to Go on Howard.
Oh, that's what it's called. I never knew it was called this whole time.
Good to Go right there on Howard. With the rooftop.
Wait, so what about like Haitian food though?
The only Haitian food I'm eating comes from my mom.
Of course. Of course.
Period.
Of course. There are a few restaurants, but
No, there are
that's
not.
the that's the answer I expected. Yeah.
Exactly. She's the best Haitian chef, period. And I
Of
tell her all the time, we should figure out how to market this. There are some things that you can package up. She's like,
right.
girl, have a seat.
Just shuts you down. So what are you working on now? That's got you excited
What
at GCG.
the most exciting project that I'm doing for GCG is our own damn projects.
Yeah.
One of the things that I prayed about last year and that has come to me this year is I was like, God, I just need to create GCG as I see it. Like I created GCG, started it, inked it, did the whole legal and formal process and jumped
Mm.
into working with the brands. But where was GCG's identity? What does GCG stand for? How do we make ourselves differentiate ourselves from other people? And then knowing what I know, knowing how I think, and knowing how I want to cultivate a team, how do I want to be different? I don't want to show up like everybody else shows up. I'm not like everybody else. I don't have the same background. I do have a unique perspective of thinking. And so I lead my team in a certain way with this umbrella of thought that I have. And how do I represent that in the work that I'm doing? So this year, what I've been doing or most excited about doing is sharpening the GCG story, the GCG creative process, to help people better understand who we are, what we are, and how we can help them or if they're the right match for us. Not every brand is going to be the right match for our sauce. You know,
Mm.
you may be a brand that needs to go with or work with other kinds of agencies to get you to the place where you want to be. And that's fine. But over here, this is what we do, you know? And so I think the right partnership match is just as important. And I can't find the right partners if I'm not articulating and representing GCG as I want it to, you know? And so my biggest thing this year is really sharpening what we do, how we show up, and what makes us uniquely different from other people.
Yeah, I've heard this before. It's from one of my favorite authors, Trevor Blake. He has a couple books, but one called Secrets to a Successful Startup. And
Hmm.
one thing that he advises is that one of the biggest motivators for getting things done in your startup or business is doing like the official like LLC, like
Hmm.
getting it officially registered and it's legal. Like that forces you to like take it serious, go beyond hobby, go beyond just, dabbling in it, and it's
Hmm.
like, boom, it's go time. Like we're registered.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I did that year one. We're registered. Let's go.
If you can impart any piece of advice,
Hmm.
scripture, quote into people that you feel will change their lives, that will change the world, what would that be?
Hmm. I think something that I have been meditating on, praying about, and has been dropped in my spirit, especially during or after the pandemic, is to is about the value and the importance of humanity and human connection. And I think that one of the things that we should really think about and be more cognizant about doing is connecting with people in person, whether that be romantically, whether that be for a career or job, whether that be friendships or family, making time to see a human being in person, creating memories, building building with one another and exchanging energies, ideas, thoughts, etc., is something that cannot be is something that doesn't happen through a tool like a camera, a phone, an iPad, a laptop. And I think that we are becoming very tech dependent, and the dependency on technology is interrupting something that is very crucial to human existence, which is real life connection. And so I think what I would say to people that are listening now and to people who will listen in the future is you have to make time to connect with people in person. Technology does not replace human connection.
Well said. There is a study that showed what were the biggest contributors to somebody having a long life.
Hmm.
And I think, diet, exercise is up there. Not smoking was up there. Not drinking. But the number one biggest contributor to somebody having a long life
Hmm.
was whether or not they talked to people throughout their day. Like, so if they went to the grocery store, did you have a conversation with somebody at the grocery store? When you went to the gym, did you talk to somebody at the gym? On your way to work, did you say hello to the crossing guard? If they found that if people were doing that, they live much longer,
Hmm.
which is crazy. You're like,
Believe it.
wow.
I believe it. And we were shocked. I know we're done now, but we were catapulted into in a world of isolation because of corona. um, it shifted the atmosphere of who we are as people, how we live and conduct our days. And we need to somehow preserve human connection. We need to preserve it. And what we're seeing in terms of the future and what's being developed for AI, in terms of what AI does even creatively, being able to type into a computer an imagination, something that you would make up in your mind, and then AI can produce something that looks human like.
Mm.
We need to really be intentional, as human beings, about what does it mean, or the importance or value of connecting in person. The feeling that you get, when you're with another person, is hard to describe or hard to measure because it's not a tangible thing, but we do know that it exists. So many different founders and companies are developing technology to help us to get to those things faster. Like, oh, you miss your mom and you're in, I don't know, you're in Jamaica and she's in New York. You can just call her and see her on FaceTime. But the feeling of being with your mom in a room is different than you seeing your mom on an iPhone.
100%.
And so that feeling is not tangible. And what we try to do, especially in social media, is replace the feelings with emojis as a way to
Right.
somehow communicate what we feel. But these emojis on all social platforms are relegated to about four or five. I'm sad. I'm happy. I'm excited for you. This was bad. When we know that the range of human emotions, there are a range of human emotions that are not so black and white, and that human existence and the human experience is complicated and it's multi-layered. You can see your mom and feel happy, sad, confused, disappointed, highly critical. You can have all these waves of emotions, but all of these ranges of emotion, get you to the kind of unique love that you have for her, you know and anyhow, I can go on and on about that, but I think that one of the most important things that we should think about as a society and as a human race is around how to preserve, um, real life human connection and community in person without a tech tool that tries to do the work for us, to make it convenient, to make it easy. There is no technology that they can create, and they will tell us differently in the future. Who is they? I don't know. But they will tell us differently in the
The
future,
deep state. Yep.
you know, that, this hologram of this person
Right.
replaces this, or this person can live on forever. And that's not true. That's not true. We get the life that we get. One thing we know for sure right now in, February, 2024, is that we have a birth date and we have a death date. And that is it. It doesn't live beyond. There are tools that we use to sort of try to hold on to a memory of that stuff, but even within our minds, our memories become, fleeting and fading, and they fade, and so really making sure that we connect with people, build community, because also from a marketing perspective, community helps us to come up with new creative solutions to the world's problems. That's another conversation for another day, because I know the girls would be ready to tussle with me that, being in the office and coming up with real solutions with people around a table, coming up with creative ideas, brainstorming together, etc., helps us to get to real life human solutions, helps us to extend our imagination. If we are relegated to a screen with a camera, that goes into all kinds of other things that are part of my sociology, degree, which is like the presentation of self. Once a camera comes on, are you truly yourself? You are presenting, you are performing, your representative is here. Whether that representative wants to be a girl boss representative or a super expert or guru, we are being trained to believe and to perform when the lights and the cameras are on. Even my personality is super heightened. Well, we're doing podcasts, so my personality is super heightened now, because the camera's lights, and the mics are on. But if you were talking to me in person, would I be the same? Like, probably, Miles. I would probably be the same. But I'm just saying, I'm saying an example. You know
No,
what I'm
no, you're right. It's like going to the movie theater where you can have 3 different experiences. If you
saying?
go by yourself, you have 1 experience, like
Hmm.
just by yourself, nobody else there. If you
Hmm.
go with a friend, family member, whoever, you go 1 other person, 2 other people, and it's just you guys, you have a second experience.
Hmm.
Then you go with a big audience,
Hmm.
you'll have a third experience.
Yep.
So, and then it's also like, does massaging your own thighs feel great? No. It feels better when somebody else does it, right? I'm big on spa. I'm big on spa. I'm big on self-care. Massage these shoulders, please, ma'am.
Please.
Yeah, it feels like I could do it right now. It's nothing. But if somebody were to come over here and just like get deep tissue into these thunder shoulders that I have,
Hmm.
it would feel amazing. So you're absolutely right about the human connection component and how crucial it is
Yeah.
for us to come together and not just allow the cameras and the technology to be facing for us, to be
Yeah.
our interface.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, Whitney Gaspard, thank you so much for being on the Miles Pod today. I wish you all the best and God bless you.
Thanks, Miles. Same to you.
Yep. Talk to you soon. Can't wait to have you on again.
Thanks.
Yeah. Bye.
The Miles Pod.